Katakuri reveals his true nature, and Luffy finally begins his counterattack against the Mochi Mochi Man. Greetings, my fellow Nakama. It's time for a double dose of One Piece anime reviews, and both of these episodes are honestly pretty freaking awesome. It's almost fully solidified that Luffy versus Katakuri is probably my favorite battle from the entire series, and yet it still really hasn't even started yet. This is definitely one of the longest battles from the entire series, and it only gets better with every single episode, and thankfully both of the episodes I'm talking about today mostly focus on that battle, which little by little starts to intensify, with Katakuri still being the stronger element of the fight, continuously pushing Luffy back with all of his mochi abilities, and pretty much predicting everything that he's going to do with his ability to see into the future. But there are some other plot points in these episodes that are worth mentioning. Some of them are kind of filler-esque, like Sanji and his team continuing to bake the cake. If you're wondering what's going on with that, well, that's what they're doing. And they're still doing the whole thing with Pudding, with her constantly switching back between her personalities. Bitch, just choose the way you want to be. Stop being so bipolar. There's also some fantastic and wacky scenes of watching Germa 66 battle against Big Mom's crew, which is just really strange to say the least. Ichiji fighting against this one dude who combines two swords together and basically transforms it into a Destructo Disc type weapon. Of course, Ichiji is not going to go down that easy, and we even have his brother going up against frickin' Captain Crunch over here, who's wearing a hat which allows him to blow out giant tornadoes. I don't know, it's One Piece, it doesn't have to make sense, but they actually make it seem like Germa 66 is actually losing this battle. But no, that's not actually happening. They're actually just destroying everyone in their wake, and I really love the image of them having like this giant pile of bodies of people that they've actually defeated. It really paints them as this like super dark superhero team, and I loved all of the scenes that included them. But both of these episodes are firmly dedicated to Luffy versus Katakuri, and Katakuri continues to just absolutely wreck everything in his wake. The first episode is basically just more of his awesome power on display and how incredibly commanding that he actually is, especially with his giant mole spear weapon. There's a couple instances where Luffy is almost completely impaled by these abilities, and it's really only out of sheer luck that he's actually able to dodge a lot of these attacks. You can tell that this is the most desperate battle that he's actually ever gone through, and it actually all ends with Katakuri just completely just burying him under this massive mountain of mochi, which is perfect timing because it's time for Katakuri to have a snack. And that's going to be the lead-in to the next episode, where we get to see a different side of Katakuri that we've never actually seen before. Every single day at a very specific time, he is met by his personal chefs who give him a dessert or a snack of some kind that he's going to enjoy. Something that he really wants to enjoy in private. And I love that they brought him these like giant, ridiculous, oversized donuts. And while Luffy is buried underneath all of this mochi, he decides that he's going to take a break and have his snacks. But he wants to do it in secret, and he actually ends up creating this house out of mochi, which is done in an old-school Japanese style, and decides to go into privacy to enjoy his food. Now, the reason why this scene is so effective is because, one, it's just funny that this villain is taking a snack break during the middle of a ridiculous and over-the-top battle, but it also leads to the reveal that Katakuri himself, while he is incredibly intimidating and ultimately horrifying, has a very goofy personality that we've never seen before. When he's actually enjoying his snacks, he does so by lying on his back and revealing what his actual mouth looks like, which is like a giant, horrifying maw filled with sharp teeth. Now, the reason this scene is so funny is because it's been firmly established that Katakuri's a bad motherfucker. He's the type of dude who looks down on the ground. He never lies on his back. But here he is, lying on his back, eating donuts, and singing about it with a big smile on his face. It completely changes the way that you actually view this character, and it's made even worse by the fact that Luffy actually ends up destroying this building and interrupting his snack. This, of course, pisses Katakuri off to the point where he actually ends up killing his chefs and beating the ever-living shit out of them in a scene which is truly terrifying. The way that they actually display his power here is just all sorts of badass. And this is when the battle truly intensifies in a way that I didn't expect. I really love the amount of attention and detail to the animation and artwork during these scenes, the way that they show Katakuri moving at extreme speeds and hardening up his arms into these like blocky-like shapes allows him to pretty much overpower Luffy in every single way. Again, combined with his ability to see in the future, he just wails on Luffy. That is until Luffy finally realizes how he's going to beat Katakuri, and that's because he's finally starting to analyze his ability to see in the future, and even starts to utilize it himself, unknowing really what's going on here in the battle. There's a great scene where Katakuri is just about to clean Luffy's clock when suddenly he sees into the future and has a counterattack moment and ends up kicking this dude right in the jaw and then dealing the most damage that we've seen to him in this battle thus far. Luffy decides to bring out the power of the Gear 4th and even manages to hit him point blank with a Kong gun, sending the Mochi Man flying. So what's the rundown on both of these episodes right here? This is actually some of the best action that I've seen from the Whole Cake Island arc, and maybe even from the entire series. It's just such an intense battle, and there's unlike anything that I've actually seen from it from the entire series. These episodes do a great job of just, again, firmly establishing how incredibly terrifying Katakuri is, and how he can use his abilities in a number of unique ways. Just like Doflamingo, he has the ability to awaken his Devil Fruit power, where he can just touch random objects in the ground and transform all of it into mochi, which allows him to trap Luffy, ultimately in the very first episode that I was talking about. It's when we finally actually get to see his true face is where things get really funny. I love that he was actually singing during this scene, because while watching it in the manga, I didn't realize that this is going to be some sort of goofy musical number, but it certainly amplified the ridiculousness of actually seeing this character and in a moment which for him, which is extremely taboo. But seeing him get really pissed off and powering up in that moment, this was like a total Dragon Ball moment. I loved that scene of him slowly walking before he decides to just teleport out of nowhere and start killing his chefs in an extremely violent fashion. Luffy was also very resourceful throughout all of this battle, managing to dodge death multiple times, but ultimately being able to see into the future I think is awesome. I love how in a lot of the times when Luffy fights his opponents, he learns about new abilities simply just by fighting someone and sort of adapting it to his fighting style, and that's what he's doing here. He's realizing what Katakuri is doing and knowing that he can actually utilize this later on in some of his big epic battles. I really love the way that that was handled in the moment where he finally kicks Katakuri in the freaking face. Oh my god, that was great, and it's finally awesome to see Gear 4th back in action, despite the fact that they still continue to reuse the whole transformation scene and a lot of the artwork from that moment. I know that he's always like in the same like pose, but they could try to change it up just a little. It is also worth mentioning that there is a brand new intro, which I honestly didn't really expect. I don't even really think that we needed it. But basically it's more of the same, just teasing the fact that even though this seems like we're getting close to the end of the Whole Cake Island arc, we're really not. We have a ton of other battles and other characters who are going to be reintroduced, and you get to see a lot of teasing for that in this intro. Some of the imagery, by the way, I think is a little too spoilerific. Manga readers are exactly knowing what I'm going to be talking about, but it gets me hyped for a lot of those scenes which are going to be coming up. I love that it's just more of Luffy versus Katakuri, except that this time, Katakuri's just deciding to take off his jacket and everything. It shows that he's truly going to get serious. There is also one final scene at the very end of the brand new intro, which shows that Luffy is going to go through a brand new transformation. I can't believe that they actually decided to tease that in the intro, but luckily they don't show it off in full. It's still going to be a big surprise for the viewers. Trust me, guys, you're going to want to check that out. What I will say is, this is just classic right here. It kind of reminds me of watching Dragon Ball Z on Toonami back in the early days. Coming home after school every day and seeing this ridiculous fight, which goes on for months, and Luffy versus Katakuri has already been going on for a while, and yet we're probably only at about the halfway point of this battle. You guys are going to want to tune in. What I will say is both of these episodes were really exciting. They weren't flawless. I mean, some of the artwork and even some of the animation was a little off-model, but it was done in such an exaggerated style and how over the top it is that I actually found myself really getting invested in it and really excited watching it. I can honestly say that these two episodes are probably my two favorites so far from the Whole Cake Island arc in terms of the action that they're actually presenting to the viewers, and I hope it's only going to get better from here. I'm giving both of these episodes, believe it or not, even with some of the flaws, a 5 out of 5. I really got a lot of enjoyment out of these, and watching them back to back only amplified my excitement for more of Luffy versus Katakuri. So make sure to check this one out. If any of you guys did watch this episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. And of course, make sure to tell me what you hope to see from the rest of Luffy vs. Katakuri and the One Piece anime series. What did you think of the brand new intro? Do you like the song, the imagery? Do you like some of the teasing? Let's get a discussion going about all of that in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down now, baby.